These are just a few of the hundreds and hundreds of books that have been written about George Washington. To see the books actually owned by George Washington, you have to go to his Mount Vernon home and the new presidential library that opened just this past Friday. Chip Reed takes us on a tour.
I really believe that George Washington is the indispensable man without whom this nation would not have been created.
She knows the man well. Ann Bookout chairs the Mount Vernon Ladies Association, founded in 1853 to preserve George Washington's estate and legacy.
He led us to freedom, gave up power, and came home to his beloved Mount Vernon.
And shortly before his death, Washington wrote a friend that it was his dream to build a library to hold his papers and books. On Friday, Washington's dream finally came true more than 200 years later with the official opening of his presidential library, a short walk from his Mount Vernon home. The cost? $100 million, all of it raised by the Ladies Association, not a penny of taxpayer money.
Yeah, that last image, the opening of the Fred W. Smith National Library for the Study of George Washington at his Mount Vernon estate. Back in 1787, he told a friend that he needed a place for his military, civil, and private papers because they were voluminous and, quote, may be interesting. He finally got his wish.
George Washington is being honored today with a tribute that looks to both history and future. NBC News political director Chuck Todd is in Mount Vernon, Virginia, to tell us about it. Chuck, lucky guy today. Good morning.
Good morning, Tamron. Well, this building behind me, 216 years in the making. George Washington actually wanted to build a building to house his books and papers, otherwise known as a presidential library. Well, today, he finally gets one. He's a bridge, a university, a city, even money. But while he's everywhere in our lives, many Americans, even at the foot of the Washington Monument, know very little about him.
I always talk about George Washington cutting down a cherry tree.
Of course, the wooden teeth, the couldn't tell a lie. I think that was him, wasn't it?
House at Mount Vernon?
Now on the grounds of his home at Mount Vernon, a place to fill in the blanks. Our first president, the last to have a presidential library.
At the time of his death, there was an inventory of his books, roughly 900 volumes. We today have 650 of the volumes, and we're continuing to collect them.
But that wasn't clear to anyone.
Library director Doug Bradburn took me into the rare book vault, which includes Washington's personal copy of Don Quixote, written in Spanish.
And the wrinkle, of course, is that Washington doesn't read Spanish.
Unlike most presidential libraries, you won't find a wing for the First Lady. It's because Martha Washington burned almost every letter she ever received from her husband, though this library has rescued a few.
I retain an unalterable affection for you, which neither time nor distance can change.
So basically a love letter, just written with a lot better words than you and I might use.
Well, that's exactly right. I might copy that.
Cameron, given that we're 14 miles from the Capitol and all the craziness of the shutdown talk, the theme of a lot of the talk here today is going to be Washington might not have let this happen.
Wow, another place to take the family for a holiday, a place to learn as well.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a defining moment, indeed a transforming moment in the life of the Mount Vernon Ladies Association. Moments like these, even in the 160-year history of the association, are surely very rare. And so today, in the presence of current and former members of the board of the Ladies Association, whose terms of service span almost 40 years, We salute the ladies for their vision, their perspicacity, and their wise and thrifty stewardship of resources in furthering the legacy of George Washington.
Whilst the momentous concerns of an empire, a great and accumulated debt, ruined finances, depreciated money, and want of credit are but secondary considerations which are postponed from day to day and week to week. 235 years ago, 235 years ago, those words could not be more true today.
The lessons of Washington in this library, it's about that usable past, a past that we can use going forward, and he has so much to offer us. So again, I say congratulations and thanks for the opportunity to be with you for a few minutes today. I'll steal words from another president and depart in order to go vote so that government by the people, of the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is truly wonderful to look out and see all of you here on this glorious day. Governor and Senators, thank you for your service, your support of Mount Vernon, your commitment to the Commonwealth, and your service to our nation is both impressive and very much appreciated.
During our visit, it had really struck home. He told us that the most recent American history text, there was more allocated to Marilyn Monroe than there was George Washington. I don't know how Jim knew that. I never asked him, but I just took him at his word. That was an alarming trend that we wanted to see turn around.
And in that eulogy of George Washington, he perhaps said it best, that this was a man that was first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. I think that's why you're all here today. Truly, this inspiring man, while one of eight Virginia presidents, perhaps was the indispensable man, and as you said, that is responsible not only for the victory in the American Revolution, but for those initial tough years in the fledgling democracy to bring a ragtag band of colonists into the great knowledge of self-government and self-rule.
Now, we don't need godlike heroes anymore. We're a mature country. But we may need to be inspired by human beings, flawed men and women, just like ourselves, who lived through complicated times, revolutionary times, and didn't know what would happen next week and next year, but nevertheless worked for improvement, worked to leave the world a better place than they found it.
The accomplishments of the Ladies Association of Mount Vernon, and particularly today with seeing how this has all been made to happen, and particularly this week with our government about to close shop, maybe the thought has occurred to you, we should ask the Women's Association of Mount Vernon to take over. And so now, today, in this beautiful setting, on this magnificent morning, we're opening a library at Mount Vernon. How thrilling, how important, not just because it's long overdue, but because of the influence, the inspiration, the effect, impact that this gathering place, this center of learning will have on future generations of all people, all kinds, from all over the world.
Hip, hip, huzzah! Hip, hip, huzzah! Hip, hip, huzzah!
America, God shed His grace on thee and crowned us with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.